At the meeting today, August 24th at 2 p.m. I wanted them to see them. I also had submitted a detailed report on this. I am demanding an investigation and a reopening of the case of the murder of Marie Corbin in 2005 in the Mission Terrace nursing home. And these were the pictures actually that the police took, that we had to wage battles for months in the court and get a court order to get them to release these photos, even though the victim was already deceased and the only survivor was the daughter who wanted the pictures. They still tried to hold them from us. After our battle, the pictures were released, and you can see that when this original pictures were taken the morning after her death, that police procedure was used in taking the pictures. For instance, this one is a measurement. They always take a measurement of the size of the wounds where the suspected murder occurred. So here's another one. This is where whoever the assailant was punched her in the eye. This is where the assailant hit her on the head with some kind of a poking object. You can clearly see in this picture her nose has been broken. This is a side view. You can see how a hand would have punched right in there and gotten all the bruises on that side. Here's the one on the right, and you can see where this object poked her, and then the rest of it slid there. You can see the blood in her hair. I'll move over and get on this side. This is really crucial, this picture here, because this was a picture of her hand, and she had blood and skin all over her fingernails. She put up a battle before she was murdered. And all these bruises here, Marie had rings which had disappeared. They were not on her. And they were on her the night before when her daughter saw her. So those rings have been taken off by someone, either in the nursing home or the police. And you can see that these bruises all on the inside, she was fighting. That's how she has all these bruises on the inside of her fingers, because she's fighting, pushing and pushing, pushing and pushing and fighting for her life, and she's getting all bruised by these rings. Now I'll go to this side again. These sides show her what would be her right arm and then her left arm, and you can see all the severe bruising. You can see all the severe bruising on the left and the right on the insides of the arms. Then on this picture you see another shot of this wound at the top, but what's significant here is you see all the blood in her hair. There was hordes and hordes of blood in her hair. And then this picture here shows more of the blood. And then I'll move to the right. This picture here is the actual sink in the bathroom. And you can see the blood residue in that picture. Clearly you can see the faint red. Where all the blood, where she was washed, her body was washed, her hair was washed, she was murdered in the bathroom. Her body was moved by nursing home staff into her bed. After it was cleaned up, her daughter said what she was wearing, this gown, was not what she was wearing when she saw her 10 o'clock at night the night before. She was wearing pajamas that the daughter had bought her for a Christmas present. And the next morning, she wasn't in those pajamas. So obviously they took all the bloody clothes off, washed her up, put different clothes on. And then Eve Murphy lied to Dr. Frawley, called him up, the treating physician, the next morning and said that they found her in her bed, dead of a heart attack. And what I handed to the city council today were two things besides showing them the pictures. First, three things I handed them. First, the anonymous letter that Hunter received in the U.S. mail. When I subpoenaed the file, I found a copy of it in there. And this anonymous letter was sent by an employee who said he knew that Marie had been murdered in the bathroom, that the staff lied, that they cleaned her up and moved her body, put her in the bed, and that they lied to her family and he wanted justice. Hunter did nothing with the letter, nothing. And as a matter of fact, in his narrative, he suggests in the end that maybe Karen, her daughter, sent the anonymous letter, which is totally absurd. If he thought that, why didn't he take fingerprints and arrest her for filing a false document with a court? No, he did that just to get rid of that. He also called off the investigation and concluded it and just whitewashed the whole thing, when any reasonable person could see that Marie Corbin had been murdered. And everyone who looks at these pictures says that woman was murdered, and yet it was whitewashed and covered up. And I believe it was covered up because Eve Murphy, J.C. Hunter, and Com Sanchez were trying to cover up for Eve Murphy because she was hiring illegals on the night shift. That was common knowledge among staff I interviewed that wouldn't file a declaration that said they would testify at court, and they were afraid of getting fired. So it was common knowledge that she hired illegals on the graveyard shift without doing any criminal checks on them and without taking their fingerprints as required in nursing home law. And it was obviously one of them, or someone murdered her in the middle of the night, and whoever it was disappeared and ran away, and Eve Murphy covered it up, and J.C. Hunter helped her. And he was protecting her because I believe they were cutting a sweetheart deal. He and Com Sanchez had a sweetheart relationship with her, and Sanchez had put his mother-in-law in there, and then had his mother-in-law guarded by policemen at the door. And I got this from a very reliable source, other than the Gonzalez, who was actually working on that case. And the Gonzalez brothers, Danny Gonzalez and Daniel Gonzalez, the son, who was the brother of Com Sanchez's wife, the two siblings of the ailing mother, who would have been beneficiaries of her large estate. When Daniel and his father, Dan, came to try to see her to find out why she had made this sudden change in the will and everything, they were not allowed to see her. Every time they tried to see her, there literally was a police guard standing at her door by orders of Com Sanchez, all being paid for with our tax dollars for a personal chore for their boss, Com Sanchez. So I believe that there should be an investigation and that we need to get rid of a corrupt police chief that is covering up murder investigations for political reasons. Now he's covered up the assault of Keith Whitney, and that whole police report was all altered and fake and completely false. And there's a lot of politics involved in that too, but these are all related. This same J.C. Hunter also was involved when Cam Sanchez tried to tried to prosecute Wayne Scholes for a crime he never committed. And J.C. Hunter tried to badger him into a confession, and when he wouldn't confess, J.C. Hunter lied to him and said that he had witnesses that were going to testify that they saw him hit Cam Sanchez, which of course he never did. And of course, when it went to trial, there were no witnesses. And when his attorney, Wayne Scholes' attorney, confronted Hunter with, why did you say during this interview that there were witnesses, his response, J.C. Hunter's response was, it's typical for cops to lie in order to coerce a confession from a defendant. That was his answer to that. So
was that under Tom Snedden?
That was under Tom Snedden's reign. Tom Snedden is now retired, has been replaced by Joyce Dudley.
Did Christina Stanley try to do anything to right that wrong when she was DA for almost 4 years?
I don't know. I'm not aware of that.
Do you think Joyce Dudley is going to do anything?
I don't know if Joyce Dudley will do anything. I have sent a request, faxed it in, and asked her to reopen this murder case because we went to the district attorney and asked to have it reopened while we were doing the civil litigation. And Pat McKinley is who I talked to, and he refused to open the case.
Pat McKinley refused
Correct.
to open the case.
He refused to reopen the case.
In spite of all this?
I mean, any
Pat McKinley?
Any
He saw
reasonable
these
person
photos.
could look at these pictures and know this woman was murdered. A second grader could figure this out.
But
No one would believe that she died of a heart attack in her bed.
Did Pat McKinley see these photographs?
Yes, he did. I showed them to him myself.
You saw him see
Yes.
it with his own eyes?
Yes,
Wow.
and I confronted Dr. Frawley because I was very suspicious about that death certificate saying she died of, quote, cardiac arrest. And when Dr. Frawley, I emailed these pictures, and he saw the pictures. He told me when he saw the pictures, he wept. He felt so bad, and he immediately signed a declaration under penalty of perjury. That's one of the things that I submitted to the city council today in their packet,